Hello everyone, this is your host Rakesh and welcome to this ReactJs series. So this is our third video where we will be having a demo of creating new components, creating reusable components, right? So I think we was here last time we have created this hello world. I think you got the series like how this React pick DOM and then update it. So where you have this app component, okay, and this app component we are rendering on the root, right, where we are selecting using this JavaScript method, right, get element by id, and this is getting rendered to this where we have this root div, right, on the index.html. Great. So I think if we are clear till this place, so let's create a new component. So just consider a web page, right? So web page have a header. So if you go to any web page, if I go to react.js org, so you have this header, then you have this banner, then you have your body where you have a lot of data, right, and then you have this footer, right? So let's try to create some of these component, right, where we can create a new component, plus we will also know how to use it or reuse it in multiple components, right? Okay, before jumping in to that new components, I would like you to tell you there are two plugins so which you can install in VS Code, which will help you to generate your components. I will tell you how to write from beginning, but down the line if you are building an application, so it will be helpful. If you see here, one is a react.js code snippet, right? You can install this one, and so another plugin is JSX HTML tag, right? So you can find out this text, right, and where if you start typing h1 h2 or any tag, right, HTML tag, it auto predict and tell you, so it will be easier for you to write any of these syntax. Okay, let's jump in there. So we have this components folder, right? So let's create a folder inside this, so that header, right, so header folder I have created so that all component related to header will be inside this folder. So this is the structure you can follow further on down the line in the application, right? So let me have a component. So you can also give using JS or JSX, so anything would be fine. So let's see. Okay, so as I said you, right, so one is you can see a React stateless component, right? So you can see right side it is having stateless. When you enter just after this, it will automatically create your component, even it will export for you by default. So one way is this, right? Another way you can write the similar structure, like you can write any component like import react from react, right, and then you can start writing any component, like you can just need to define here const, or let's say this is test component, right? So you can use arrow function, right, and you will be returning here any kind of JSX, right? So and then you can export it, right? So this another way where you can export. So the name of your component is test component, right? So when you export one component, right, you have to say export default and that component name, right? It's showing error because we already exporting here one component, right? So easier way is just use this r react stateless component rsc. When you hit enter, it automatically generate for you, right, a base structure for any component, right? So as we have this header component here, so we'll just say we already have one div, so we can define one div which can have a class name. So one thing in JSX is we have to define class name. So generally in HTML we'll just say class equal to, and we'll define our CSS selector, right? So with React it's a little different. You have to just say class name and you have to define your class name here. So let's say I'll say this logo, and here we'll say logo, right? Okay, so we have this logo. So basically what this component is doing here, so this component is just returning your JSX. So if you understand functions in JavaScript, I think understanding this part would be easier. So I will also explain you a bit. Let's say you have a function and you have add function, so which accepts something like this, and you return something here, right? So it pretty much doing same thing. So you're doing some calculation here and returning that additional value, right? Addition of these two. So here what we are doing in React, so because we are importing React, so once we create a component, it automatically get featured with a couple of more things, right? So as this is JSX, which we are returning in the JavaScript function, right? So it's pretty much simple. And as we have this header here and component here, and we are exporting this by default. So once we save it, so we are ready to use this particular component in any of the component inside React. So how will we use that? As it is header, you have to put on top in your DOM list, right? So generally is that. So from here, what you can do is you can start writing your component header, right? So if you enter now, it automatically import your component. So yeah, so now you have your component available here, right? So what is happening here? So you have imported the component which you have exported from here. So we've exported header, and you are importing header here, right? So one good thing is when you start writing, it automatically import here, right? Great. So as you see, you have header here. That means you should be having a DOM which carry this class name logo and which carry this text. So if you go back and see your demo, so you have this logo here, right? That's a great thing. So if you go here and see a DOM, right? So you see your DOM. So you have this logo, right? Logo class. And you can also notice one thing. So class name is turned to class. So basically, I have said you before in previous video, everything need to convert to JavaScript and HTML, right? So because browser understand everything as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you have this class here, and you would notice one thing here. We have one extra div, and we don't want that. So we can do one thing. There is something called React Fragment. So Fragment, okay. So if you go to documentation, you would know that. So one way is you can write like this, right? Another way is if they would be telling here, otherwise I'll tell you. So definitely they have here. So the short syntax is like this. So you don't need to write React and Fragment or anything like that. So what you can do is just remove this div. So what it will do for you, if you come and check here, so now that extra div got removed, right? Sometimes you don't want, no, otherwise it will have a lot of divs, empty divs, right, which is not required. This will help you to structure your DOM a little better way. Okay, so I think now you know how we can create a new component. Let's create one more component for reference, right? So let's create one folder here. So in VS Code, the second icon, if you click, right, so it will help you to create folder. Then so one thing, you create your component with capital letter, right? I think that is recommended. So React stateless component, if you enter, right, you have this footer available. So let me write down here p footer. Okay, so this particular component is ready. I'm not writing so much here, so that because I want you to understand a clean structure, and then once you get habitual with this, we'll create a big components and small projects, right? So now this footer component is ready, right? So everything we have created a component, we have exported a component. That means it is available to use. So in our main app component where we are importing this, we'll start writing footer. So you can also notice like which one we have to import. So you no need to import this. So it automatically gives you the path of your component. So if you enter, okay, so one thing you have to understand here, you need to close your component basically, right? So you can see here we are importing both component using here. So you have this footer, right, and down there you can see your footer tag. That's the very basic. So it can grow bigger. So let's say your footer will grow bigger like this React footer, right, which has a lot of this thing. So we will also import Bootstrap in this so that we can easily create these components, right? And then we can show you the demo how we can create that. This particular class is for creating a component, so I hope you have understood how to create the component, right? Okay, next thing is how we can reuse this component. So reusability is easy, so because we have created this component here, right? So you can use this multiple places. Let's say you used here. Okay, okay, so let's create another component, right? So let's create a component called reuse. Okay, so this will have a component called reuse.js. Okay, okay, I think let me change it to JSX. Great, so now we have this reuse component. We can use this div and directly we can say p tag reusable component. Okay, great. So we have this particular component created. So don't worry about it. This can have more business logic or anything written here. We'll come to that later. But yeah, to understand simple way, how can we reuse this? We can also reuse these components which we already have. So if I say header twice, automatically you'll have logo, right? So just, I don't want it to make you confused. So let me create this, or let me import this component which is reuse, right? So reuse. Awesome. So you see this is the reusable component, so that means you can paste a number of time, right? So now what is happening, why we use reusable component? So that if we change one place, it will change everywhere. So let's say your website have a lot of this thing, right? So I have reuse component, so this is reusable component in ReactJs. Awesome. So now you see we have changed all the places. At if we are changing one place, we have changed all the places, right? So this is the beauty of reusing components. So you can break down your components in multiple components if you are using it multiple places, right? So that will help you when you have a big application, right? That will help you to organize your app a bit. So I think hope this particular lecture is clear to you. So you can post any question in the comments. I will pick up that and create a separate video on that. Thanks so much, guys.